Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Hubert Ingraham, confirms that he has received documentation on Clico Guyana's investments in that subsidiary from President Barra Jagdeo.
Chairman of GCOM, Dr. Steve Sturge-Bally, says the Commission is ready to hold local government elections before November 30th this year.
And regional leaders voiced their support of President Barra Jagdeo's climate change initiative.
And of course, we'll bring you the latest sporting action, the Diamond Mineral Water and NCN Sport News. Hello, good evening. I am Janelle Persaud.
And I'm Paul Moore.
With this edition of the 6 o'clock news for today, Tuesday, March 17, 2009. Here's what's happening. Paul.
Thanks, Janelle. President Barra Jagdeo has supplied information on Clico Guyana's investments in Clico Bahamas to that country's Prime Minister following claims made about there being no records to prove this. This was confirmed by Bahamian Prime Minister Hubert Ingraham, who said that the documents are now with the authorities who are checking their authenticity. Edward Lane reports.
Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Hubert Ingraham, had said that there were no records of Clico Guyana's investment in that nation's subsidiary and requested that documents be provided to substantiate this claim. This came after President Barra Jagdeo had stated that a substantial portion of Clico's Guyana assets were tied up in the operations of Clico Bahamas Limited. The Guyanese leader subsequently hand-delivered the documents to his Bahamian counterpart in Belize last week. Ingraham noted that this information was forwarded to the Registrar of Insurance and the liquidator on Monday. He said that he will be updated shortly on the legitimacy of that documentation and will inform President Jagdeo of the findings. On March 2 last, during his communication to Parliament following the announced liquidation order for Clico Bahamas Limited, Mr. Ingraham advised that he was informed by President Jagdeo that some 53% of Clico Guyana's assets were tied up in the Clico Bahamas operations. Mr. Ingraham told reporters that no such information regarding the claim was available to the Bahamas at that time. Meanwhile, regional insurance sector regulators met in Trinidad last week to discuss issues concerning Clico and have been mandated to prepare and submit a report to the heads of government for consideration. According to the Bahamian Prime Minister, leaders have agreed that this is a regional problem which must be addressed by all stakeholders. He added that this will allow them to make informed decisions based on the report received from the regulators. In the meantime, court proceedings regarding the wind-up of Clico Bahamas and confirmation of the appointed liquidator will take place in that country tomorrow. Judicial Manager of Clico Guyana, Maria Van Beek, has stated that presentations on the status of Clico Guyana's investment in that subsidiary are to be made by the company's legal team. She notes that this process may take some time to conclude. Meanwhile, the process of determining, quantifying and valuing all of the assets and liabilities of Clico Guyana is ongoing. The company has affirmed that it will honor all event-driven policy benefits. However, collections on regular benefits remain suspended pending investigations by the judicial manager. Edward Lane, the 6 o'clock news.
Chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission, Dr. Steve Sturge-Bally, says the Commission is ready to hold local government elections before November 30. We have details from Monica Jones.
GCOM Chairman Dr. Steve Sturge-Bally says the Commission is awaiting recommendations from the Joint Task Force. He says all other procedures are completed.
Our Microsoft project plan shows that we can have elections. We are prepared to have elections by November the 30th, and my own self, I think that we can perhaps even do a bit better than that. But all is resting on the deliberations of the Joint Task Force for Local Government Reform.
President Barra Jagdeo says the opposition and government should work to conclude the framework for the holding of elections. However, he says if the issue is not resolved at this level, it should be taken to the Parliament and debated.
Whatever comes out of that, then that's the framework that will be guiding, that would be the framework that would be guiding the elections. But we absolutely have to move forward. It's unacceptable that so many years after local government elections were held that we've been unable to hold these elections. We're not doing our people any good, or we're not meeting their wishes at the local government level.
Meanwhile, PNCR Representative Charles Corbin has been sworn in by the head of state as the newest GCOM commissioner.
Immediately I will be immersing myself in the deliberations of the body. I hope that the contributions that I make will enhance the ultimate objective, which is stakeholder confidence in the product of the work of the Commission.
Mr. Corbin, who graduated from Columbia University in the United States, holds a first degree in sociology and a master's in organizational psychology. He was also a nominee to the Technical Monitoring Panel representing the opposition parties during the last elections. Monica Jones, the 6 o'clock news.
Guyanese drug trafficker Roger Khan has pleaded guilty to plotting with his lawyer to keep witnesses from testifying against him at his upcoming Brooklyn trial. Under the plea deal with federal prosecutors, Shahid Roger Khan, a reputed leader of a violent drug organization, faces 15 years in prison and is not required to testify against his former lawyer, Robert Simmels. Khan and Simmels are charged with obstructing justice by plotting to eliminate and neutralize potential witnesses by offering them money or killing their relatives, court papers say. Simmels is free on a $3.5 million bail. Khan, 37, also pleaded guilty to cocaine trafficking and a 1993 gun possession charge. He faces deportation after completing his sentence. Regional leaders have voiced their support of President Bayer Jagdio's climate change initiative at the CARICOM Heads of Government meeting in Belize. At the summit, which concluded last Friday, they pledged to play a greater role in the region's preparations leading up to the Climate Change Summit in Copenhagen. Here again is Edward Lane.
Regional heads have committed their countries to play a more active and visible role in the negotiations leading up to the Copenhagen Climate Change Summit in December. The heads emphasized on the linkages between climate change and renewable energy and endorsed the position proposed by President Bayer Jagdio on promoting the preservation of forests and carbon credits for the region. Sustainable development was another area on which the heads of government had discussions. Apart from these areas, the regional body plans to pursue additional funding from international financial institutions to confront some of the challenges facing Caribbean economies. CARICOM Chairman Dean Barrow has cited the CARICOM single market and economy as the platform upon which the region would face the challenges. Speaking on other outcomes of the meeting, Mr. Barrow said leaders also agreed that there was a need for a reform of the global financial architecture. The Belizean Prime Minister pointed out that the situation regarding CL Financial and the Stanford Group of companies fully engaged the meeting, with members agreeing to pool resources to deal with the fallout from the crisis. He noted that stimulus packages rolled out by some are not enough to cope with the situation and warned that things will get worse before they get better. With regard to crime and security, Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Denzel Douglas, told the media that leaders had fully endorsed the proposal he presented for a summit on crime and security in May. Heads also received a report on the CARICOM travel card and progress on the implementation of the Ballistics Information Network. Edward Lane, the 6 o'clock news.
New Zambian High Commissioner to Guyana, Albert Muchanga, has presented his credentials to President Bayer Jagdio. Commissioner Muchanga promised to rejuvenate the relationship between the two countries. The presentation was made in the credentials room of the Office of the President in the presence of Foreign Affairs Minister Carolyn Rodriguez Burkett and Ambassador Elizabeth Harper. In an invited comment, the Commissioner said Guyana and Zambia relationship dates back to the early years of Zambia's independence, where Guyanese experts visited Zambia and worked in various government institutions.